Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1690. The topic is mindset, and the title is Maintaining Healthy Expectations. Now, what we're going to actually talk about today are expectations on yourself. What you think you should be doing versus what you can maybe actually maintain and be consistent with in reality. Those two things are very different at times. We often want the best from ourselves, and unfortunately, given everything else we have to balance in our life, it can be very challenging to fulfill our own expectations. Now, what's interesting is, for a fun little tidbit of knowledge, when I send clients, my one-on-one clients, when I send them a questionnaire, which I use to kind of gather initial information and build on it, see if we're basically just learn everything I need to learn about them, and then start writing the programming. One of the questions I have is, which description below explains your desired approach towards your goals? And then they have options. I'll read through the options. Option 1 is, it's the number one priority in my life right now. Option 2, major focus, but needs to be balanced with family and work. Number 3 is, definitely want to achieve my goals, but I have a lot going on in my life right now, so I need this to be sustainable and a balanced approach. So that's kind of the ideas. When asking somebody, okay, we want to work together, we're going to create a nutrition program, we're going to create a training program, we're going to expect you to be able to develop these things into your lifestyle, into your normal habits, into your normal life, mixed in with all the other priorities. We need to know, is this the number one priority in your life? Or is it, it's important, but I need to also have my family and work involved here. Or I have a lot going on, I feel kind of overwhelmed, I'm just trying to grasp at what I can while managing everything. It's helpful because often we expect ourselves to do things as if it's the number one priority. But unfortunately, it often can't be, but we don't lessen the expectations. So we maintain this expectation of consistency and accuracy as if it was our number one priority, even when we know it can't be. So even when we look at our life and we say, okay, I would love to be able to do X, Y, Z, but it looks like I'm only going to be able to get in A, B, C. We don't let go of those expectations of X, Y, Z. We don't let go of the perfection expectations enough. And it's kind of sad because then we feel that pressure kind of pushing on us, kind of weighing on us. There was a client I work with who was feeling this to some degree, and they wrote in their journal. And they said that they're basically they're struggling at the moment. They had felt that they were doing really well, and it's just kind of going up and down, and right now they're in one of those down times. And they've struggled because in the past, they feel that they've been able to be very consistent. Almost never missing training, never missing meals. They were able to be super consistent. It was back when it was new. When it was new, it was fresh, it was exciting. They were super dialed in. But unfortunately, other things have gotten in the way. Like life events and life changes have happened, and they're not in the same place in life as they were then as they are now. Meaning there's more things to balance in their life at the moment. So what's difficult for this person is, we say don't expect perfection, right? Well, they were actually able to do it. They were damn near, if not actually perfect, when they first started. So they know they can do it. The downside is they're not letting go of that expectation, that self-expectation, given that they're in a new place in life. If you're in a new relationship, a new job, you recently moved, if you've had just maybe family health problems around you, if there's just a different set of priorities, a different set of needs, a different set of demands, if your life looks different, we need to understand that it's appropriate and necessary to change our self-expectations. So this person was able to be perfect before, but that was with the life that they had before. They have a new life. So therefore, they have to adjust their self-expectations. Now, they wrote a lot in the journal. I'm not going to read all that because it's theirs. I don't want to, share information, but the personal information. But I do want to kind of share what I responded with. I think this is a good thing that we all can kind of use. So I wrote back. I said, thank you for sharing your thoughts with me. You're in a tough mental space. You have aspects that you'd like to improve upon, which is totally reasonable, and it's healthy to have goals. But it can, at times, create unhealthy pressure. Two aspects that create unhealthy pressure: expecting perfection and focusing only on the negatives, or focusing on what we miss or what always needs to be improved upon. So I gave them some mental homework. I said, I want you to count the number of days you ate well in the past 60 days. So go back through, they can read the journals because I respond in their journals and say, good day or not good day. They can look back through their tracking app if they want to. But I just want them to look through for the past 60 days and see the number of days that they ate well. And then I wanted them to convert that into a percentage. So for example, if you ate well 40 out of 60 days, that would be 66%. If you do this, what is your percentage? Number 2, count the number of days you were supposed to work out and the number of days you actually did work out over the past 60 days. Again, figure out the percentage. For example, maybe you were scheduled to or expected to get in 40 workouts in the last 60 days. And you were able to get 32 workouts in, that would be 80%. Okay? So that was the questions 1 and 2. Question 3. What percentage for each for good food days and expected training adherence would you expect of yourself? What do you think would be a bottom line acceptable percentage? What do you think is a good percentage? And what do you think would be a percentage that you look at and be like, damn, go me? And I actually wrote that, which is kind of funny. But I wanted to know. I wanted to know in their mind, figure out the percentages that you've been accurate for nutrition. Figure out the percentages you've been accurate for training. And then what's like the bottom? Like, okay, I have to be doing this. Otherwise, I'm super bummed. And that's bullshit. And if I'm not at least doing this percentage, what am I doing? And then I wanted them to find a good percentage. And then like man, this would be amazing if I could sustain this percentage. And then we're going to work on that. So they wrote back. And they said, hey, Rob, I can see why you asked me to do this. LOL. They're 48 out of 60 with their nutrition. And they said if they did their math right, that's 80%. And that's true. So what's funny is they wrote, I know that's not as awful as I feel. Isn't that wild? We tend to, due to that second thing I said, of focusing only on negatives, focusing only on what needs to be improved, we tend to think we're doing a horrible job. But when we look at the reality of things, we say, oh man, I'm not doing as bad as I thought. And that was awesome. I really wanted them to see that because I actually already knew what the answers were, not the percentages, but from looking at their food every single week, I see what they're doing. I see what their trends are. So when they were super down and they felt like they were just like, stuck in a rut and they were never going to get better, I was like, well, they're crazy. I was like, they're doing a really good job. So I wanted them to see it for themselves. So that was part of the homework. So they got 48 out of 60 days right. That's really freaking good. 80% is fantastic. You will absolutely 100% move towards your goals at 80% accuracy, with the only exception being somebody who wants to get on stage. So if you want to compete in like strength training, you want to get your meals, as close to 100 as you can. If you're competing in aesthetic sports, damn sure they got to get close to 100% as possible. So 80% would be fantastic for non-competitive clients. For competitive clients in the off season, 80% is awesome. As we would get into kind of competition prep, we would try to push that up to 90%. So just to give you some general numbers, is if you're at 70 to 80% accuracy with your nutrition, you're going to be making some progress. It could be a little faster, but it's at least some progress. If you get between 80 to 90%, you're definitely making progress. And it's actually a pretty good rate, but probably still a decent balance emotionally and mentally with the rest of your life. When it starts to get over 90%, then you're having to put other things second. Your nutrition is having to become the number one priority, and I would really only expect that as we were to be into like competition prep, with those clients. So 70 to 80% doing really good. 80 to 90 doing great. Over 90 really only needed at times of the year. That's not really a sustainable lifelong thing unless it is truly the number one priority for you and it is the be all end all of everything you're doing. Okay. Second question, which was the percentage for training. They said this one is 100%. They said they couldn't even remember the last time they missed a workout. And that's pretty freaking awesome. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then the third one, I wrote what percentage for each, again, for good food days and expected training adherence, would you expect of yourself? What do you think would be a bottom line acceptable percentage? What do you think is a good percentage? And what do you think would be like a, damn, go me, great percentage? They said for this one, training isn't an issue. That's true. Training, they've been 100%. If they were to miss something, they're never going to really drop below 90. They're really consistent with training. But when it comes to nutrition, they said they would like to be a minimum of 90% adherence. They didn't necessarily give me a bottom line, a good percentage, and then like a great damn go me percentage. They just said they wanted 90%. So I'm going to come back to them. They don't know this yet, but I'm going to come back to them and tell them that I really do want those different percentage expectations. So when they say as far as nutrition, I'd like 90% minimum, in what situations? 90% adherence is really freaking hard. Really hard. 90% adherence really comes whenever nutrition is more important than anything else. It's more important than attending to, daily chores, because you might have to skip a chore to get your food in. It's more important than your friends, because you might have to skip a conversation with a friend or cut a friend short or not call somebody or not text somebody because it's time for a meal. It's where you choose food over everyone and everything else. That's the only way to get over 90%. I remember there was a story of a bodybuilder, and he had a job fixing elevators. That was his job. He went around New York City fixing elevators. And he said he ended up getting fired from that job because he would get into an elevator, and before he would fix it, or sometimes in the middle of fixing it, he would stop to eat food because it was time to eat because he was a bodybuilder. And he thought, I'm in the elevator, I'm all alone, there's no one with me. What does anybody know whether it takes me 30 minutes or 45 minutes to fix this elevator? Well, one day he was in an elevator that had a camera, and his boss found out about the footage, and here he got into the elevator. He got in late. He was like 5 or 10 minutes late for a meal, so he got into the elevator, then just sat and ate a meal for 10 minutes, texted some friends, did some social media stuff, and then he said the meal maybe only took like 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then he went on, he fixed the elevator, but he got a phone call and the boss said he was fired because the boss wasn't going to pay him to eat. Now, here's the thing, is that bodybuilder did not stop bodybuilding because he got fired. He just went and found a new job. He found a new job. Eventually, he got his pro card, and now he gets paid to eat. He doesn't have to have a real full job. He gets paid to eat. But to him, eating was more important than losing his job. That's how you get over 90%, is everything has to come second to food. Because there are so many elements that you can control that you might get wrong that'll drop you away from 100%, right? And then there are so many elements that you cannot control that'll drop you under 100%. What if you get sick one day? For some reason, you get a stomach bug, you or can't hold anything down, you're throwing up, you're tired, so you sleep in extra, you miss a meal because you sleep in, you can't eat what you normally eat because you're sick, you can't count that as 100% because you did technically miss those meals, so you're under 100%, and that's not even something you can control. So if your expectations are 100%, it's not even possible given all of the things that you can't control in life. And especially if your time frame for maintaining 100% is just all the time. That's not going to work. So when we have competition clients and we expect them to be as best as they can be, that's within the elements they can control. I'm never going to give somebody shit for something they couldn't control. Ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. That's ridiculous. If they couldn't control it, they couldn't control it. Let's figure out how to work around it, right? If it's something they could control, I'm still not going to give them shit. I'm just going to say, hey, what happened here? Why did we make that choice? Could we figure out how to, adjust for that to not do that again? It's it. Like, I'm here to solve problems, not to give people shit. So life will give you enough shit. I don't need to add to it. But the reason why I want to bring this up is 100% is ridiculously impossible. Not going to be able to do it. 90% is also unlikely. Very, very, very unlikely. Because you have to put everything second. Relationship, job, friends and family, hobbies, anything, any possible thing has to come second to food for you to maintain a minimum of 90%. I want people to know that because it's unrealistic. So if you hear somebody saying, like, I never miss a meal, their job better be actually like fitness. This must be their world. Like, there is a bodybuilder. I remember an interview. I might have mentioned it. I think I did mention it in a recent podcast. Nick Walker is a professional bodybuilder. I think he was top 3 Mr. Olympia. So top 3 bodybuilder in the world. And he said he hasn't missed a meal in 5 years. That he gets paid. He gets sponsorship money from all these different supplement companies and stuff. It is his job to eat and lift weights. If he didn't miss a meal, it makes sense because it's the only damn thing he has to focus on all day. Now, if he heard me say that, he'd probably tell me I'm full of shit because he has programs to sell. He probably has merchandise. He has family obligations. Taxes and bills still need paid. You got to do cleanup and shit around the house. There's still chores of life. He has a relationship. So there's going to be a managing of your own needs with your partner's needs. So he's going to tell me I'm full of shit when I say that the only thing he has to do is eat. He has all the normal crap that we all also have to do. Plus, we have a job, but his job is to eat. So that does make it a little bit easier for him. It's not easier in the sense that he has to eat perfectly, and he has to eat like 6-7 times a day, and he can't make a single mistake, otherwise he's not going to be a top 3 in the world. So there's an enormous amount of pressure. So it's challenging in its own way. But in regards to adherence percentage, he should be over 90%, given the situation that he has. But for us to be over 90%, it's unrealistic. Absolutely unrealistic. And I would argue that's probably unhealthy. It's not unhealthy in stages, pre-contest, 12 weeks out of the year here and there. But that is not a, just sustainable lifestyle, lifelong percentage. So, I just went on a crazy rant. But I believe over 70% adherence for nutrition is possible and a good bottom line goal. I believe 80% is kind of where, if most people can be around 80%, you're doing great and you're going to get everything you want. If you're trying to be over 80%, it's really only pre-contest situations. So 70%, great job. 80% is you're doing really I guess 70% is like minimum job. You're doing it. 80% is you're doing really well. So 80 to 90%, I would say, is where the sweet spot, where most people, if you're somewhere around 80, 85% adherence, you're doing a fantastic job. You're going to get what you want. If you're at that 90 or more, it's probably only going to be sustainable for seasons of life and pre-contest conditions. Okay. So they wrote on and they said, thank you for bringing up the questions. It really helped. It helped them realize they're not as far off as they thought they were. And I thought that was really nice to hear because I hope it starts to give them a healthier, happier perspective of what they're doing. compared to what they thought they were doing. So again, when you're thinking about having healthy expectations, especially self-expectations, remember that there are two things we want to kind of stay away from. We want to stay away from expecting perfection. It's not going to happen. And we want to stay away from focusing only on the negatives. Remind yourself of what you're getting right. Because in this case, this person was doing 80% right, but they were discrediting it and weren't even looking at it. So don't forget what you're doing right. You're doing a lot of things right in life. The couple things that you want to improve upon, just make sure you keep them in context of everything else that you're doing. You're doing a lot of things right. You're doing a great job. If you want to improve on a couple things, great. You should. It's a good thing to always want to make improvements in our life, but just don't let yourself get too far down, get too far negative, get into negative self-talk and beating yourself up. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. It was just nice to hear that other people deal with this. So we do have our a couple recent podcasts that can be helpful. Is we have podcast 1678. It was a mindset podcast titled Mental Health Issues Related to Living a Healthier Lifestyle. That was part 1, and then part 2 is podcast 1682. Those would be really helpful to learn that you're not alone in struggling with self-expectations and other type of issues that might be related to eating healthier or living healthier lifestyle. Okay, if you need anything, email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com. I'm always here and I'm always happy to help. If you like today's podcast, please share it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. You can do that on our website. It helps cover the hosting costs. So thank you very, very much. I really genuinely appreciate that. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and please follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening.